All right, guys. Thank you so much for coming back. Hopefully you saw episode 1 with Paul and Harris. And now we're on episode 2 here of the CoLiving Operations podcast with Miller McSwain. There's a weird awkward pause from this person's last name, Miller McSwain. It's good to have him here. Miller and I have been friends for a little bit. He's younger than I am. He's more energetic than I am. I'm very proud of him. He's doing great. We're going to talk about how he's operating. So, Miller, you want to say hi?
Hey, yeah, super stoked to be on here, and I think we're going to talk all about co-living and fight about a few things. So, guys, definitely stick around. I'm excited for this one. Yeah, me and Dave have been friends for a little bit, and our disagreement might tear our friendship apart. So, stay tuned.
That'd be great, right? What's going to happen? Marsha. All right, you're too young for that. That's a Brady Bunch reference.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
You didn't get it at all? No? All right. So you, Miller, famously switched from being a rocket scientist. It's your whole thing. You have rocket scientist. You have little rockets in your signature. When you sent me your contact information, I didn't even know you could do emojis in your cell phone contact. So that was interesting. You made that big switch from being this like top, what everyone thinks is the job to have, to co-living. Why would you make that switch?
Yeah. So just funny side story real quick. Yeah. All the nuclear rocket science branding, all of that was Brandon Turner's idea. Kind of random thing. I ended up driving him from the airport in Denver down to Colorado Springs. Like he posted on social media, like, "Hey, can anyone pick me up from the airport?" And I was like, "Oh my God." Like my thumbs have never moved so fast to reply to this guy on Instagram. And anyway, I ended up driving him down here. This is way before we were, we had our first house hack and that was kind of all we had. And anyway, I was talking to him about branding. I was like, yeah, I don't know what to make my Instagram handle, yada, yada. Like I'm bald, but David Green's already bald and he takes care of that. There's this guy, Dave Edwards in Houston, that's bald. And he was like, "Dude, you're a nuclear rocket scientist." And I was like, "Oh yeah." So I definitely thank him for all of that awesome branding. Yes, that's kind of how I branded myself since then. And it was a good job that I worked very hard to get, right? All throughout high school, all throughout college. Like that was the goal, go be a rocket scientist. And so everyone thought it was kind of weird whenever I just threw all that away, right? Even right. Like mother-in-law, parents, like all of that are like, you just got this job basically. Like I graduated college and did the nuclear rocket science thing for like 2 years and then quit. So like very early on, a lot of sunk costs like fallacy like played in my head because of what other people were saying, hey, you spent so many years on this. But really what it boiled down to was we were doing something good with co-living and we started to see the fruits of our labor. Our cash flow wasn't exploding, over the top yet, but we could see the direction it was going. And my thought was, hey, luckily we've kept our expenses really low. So technically we could just live on my wife's income, right? And that was a big card that I was able to play, was that my wife had a job.
Right, but your wife is also a nuclear scientist, right?
Yeah, she's a bio skin cancer person. Okay. So yeah, she's a smarty pants. But I kind of had that card to play that, hey, we could live off of her income. So the math and the idea and the crazy idea that went through my head was, well, why don't I quit right now? We don't have enough cash flow from our properties yet or the portfolio yet to replace my income, but we'll live off of hers. And this gives me the time to do this hockey stick thing, which you can do with co-living that I could not do at a W-2. Like I was making like $80K a year-ish and getting like 2 to 3% raises a year, like all throughout like COVID time.
So the whole branding about a rocket scientist being like, oh, you get that job and then you're set for life, that's all made up.
Yeah, in fact, the reason I went to nuclear engineering, my dad showed me this newspaper article like in high school, and it was like the highest paying engineering jobs like out of college, and it was like nuclear 200K. I was like, all right, that was part of the motivation.
Yes.
And that's not true. It's just like every other engineering. It's like 80-ish. Yeah.
Okay.
To start.
All right. Okay, so you moved to co-living because you see better potential there for growth for your life personally. You didn't want to be stuck at the W-2 behind the desk all the time or at the launch pad. I'm not really sure where nuclear scientists do their work. You're like, all right, let's go to co-living and work on that. Fantastic. I think a lot of people are looking at it the same way. Like, if I'm looking at even getting into real estate, what's the best strategy to get into? So I think you'd agree, co-living, you pick that because, what are you seeing in the single family home market that makes you look at at co-living versus traditional rents? Why
Yeah,
get
I
rid
mean,
of
yeah, I think it does depend on your market. But a lot of cities around the country, right, do have unaffordability issues where folks who want to rent a studio apartment, if there's a large section of the population that is unable to do so very comfortably, then there's an opportunity to bring co-living to the market. So, I mean, there's selfish and unselfish reasons for all of this. So that's the unselfish reason, right? It's like, oh, hey, let's actually provide a solution to the affordability issue across the US, and provide this awesome, super cheap thing that folks can rent that will provide housing to them when otherwise they would be scraping to pay their $1,500 a month studio or whatever it is in your market. So that's the unselfish thing. The selfish thing is it cash flows like crazy, right? So it's really cool when you do find something that is a win-win, when you find a business strategy, and this is one of those, right? Helps the tenants if you run it right. Can be an absolutely great opportunity for them. We're getting 2x, 3x the income that we would typically get on a single family house. Like the last place that we bought 4 or 5 months ago was it would rent to a family for like $2,200. And we're getting 8,000 instead, right? Well, once it's stable, we're still doing some remodel on it, but such high multiples compared to traditional rentals, even compared to short-term rentals. That's what's been kind of surprising. In our market, whenever I wrote the book for Bigger Pockets on co-living, there's a chart.
You wrote a book for Bigger Pockets on co-living? Is that the gigantic orange thing behind you?
Yeah, it's a giant orange thing.
Okay.
Again, crazy
brand.
The
decoration you got. I've got like 19. Oh, and I got your book. But you got like
there it is. Dave's a fan of the book. Yeah. But in there's a chart where I compare in my market long-term rents to midterm, short-term, and co-living. And short-term and co-living were obviously the highest, and they were pretty neck and neck. But I went back and looked at that data again over like last 2 or 3 months ago, and the short-term ones dropped by like 30-40%. It's basically you bring in as much as midterm for the work of co-living. Like it takes a lot more work to do short-term like it does with co-living, and the returns aren't quite there anymore. So
I'd argue a little bit there. We're not in the fighting section yet, but I think that co-living is less work, or it's still work. You're still looking at daily, but it's not as, I think the word would be like intensive, right? With short-term, you need to be on the ball 24/7. You have a cleaning issue. You've got another guest coming in. You've got 2 hours to solve your problem. With co-living, someone says, "Oh, it's a little dirty here in the kitchen." You can get your clean over the next day or two, right? So you got work, but I feel like short-term rents, it's not just similar cash flow or slightly lower cash flow depending on where you are, but it's also a lot more stressors, a lot more immediacy of need. Right?
Yeah, I agree. I think they're definitely different work. To your point, short-term rentals is going to be very like immediate, quick response, quick everything, quick maintenance, all of that. Whereas co-living, I think, is just more volume, right? You have the same problem 7 times and you figure out how to solve it and you just keep doing it over and over. And you have more time to react. But yeah, co-living more of a volume game, but different types of work for sure.
Thinking about this, you've been in the game now for what, 2 years or so? 3 years?
Yeah, probably 3. We started in 2022.
Okay. So over the last couple of years, you built it out and you're operating everything on your own with your own tools for the most part. We talked pretty cool about some of your tool sets that you've got there. We talked some more about that in a little bit specifically. But what has been like the biggest challenge that you were thinking of? Like we just talked a little bit about how like you have the same thing 7 times or so. Is there anything that was busting your brain for a little bit before you found your solution you've gotten through?
Yeah, totally. So kind of the fun thing about developing a new strategy, like what we're all kind of doing. We started doing co-living before we heard you talking about it, before we heard, Sam Wiegert talking about it, before we heard anyone talking about it. So it's kind of funny that we all created a lot of solutions and a lot of them are very similar across all the portfolios, which is kind of incredible to see. Like literally whenever I wrote the book, I hadn't even met Sam, I hadn't even met you. But if you read that, like a lot of the things are pretty similar across all of our portfolios. But so there were a lot of solutions that we kind of felt like we had to invent. But in reality, a lot of it's just stolen from other strategies. But one of the biggest ones is whenever we first faced an issue where we had to get someone out of the property and we did not want to go as far as doing an eviction. Of course, that's on the table, but we had to figure out what our flow was. Hey, something went wrong in this property. what's the first thing we offer them to get them out? Like if we decide they need to get out, what's the first thing we offer them? What's the second thing? And then when along that line do we go to eviction? And this was a really unique one because tech enabled our favorite solution to this. So kind of our flow right now, let's give an example. So my favorite one, I'm sure there will be more tenant horror stories to come in the future.
There always will be.
Yeah, and we're around Halloween right now, so maybe we could collab on like a Halloween spooky tenant stories. But anyway, our biggest one probably was this guy was naked in the property, and he was like walking around literally in front of other tenants. Like a new guy just moved in and called me and was like, "Hey, what the heck? This other guy's walking around naked in the house. Like, that's not cool." Yeah, that's not real cool, is it? So that's a scenario where that was the complaint. Then we also got a complaint that this guy like stole like energy drinks or protein shakes or something out of the fridge that wasn't his, right? So just like some things started compounding. We also got a report that this guy and another tenant were planning a Cinco de Mayo party with over 500 people.
What?
I know it's like a 3,500 square foot house, but still, like that's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So
wait, did he sell tickets?
Yeah, maybe if we collected a portion, then it would have been worth it.
Yeah.
But we were getting cut out, so therefore he had to go. He didn't work this deal out ahead of time with us. So this was like one of the first issues where we had it was obvious this dude needs to leave, right? And the way that we were able to make him leave was we had cameras in the shared spaces, living room in our case, and kitchen, and we watched all entrances to the house. And that's pretty much the limit of it. So of course, not in the bathrooms, not in private bedrooms, not anything like that.
But he's walking around the house naked. So could he have said something about how you're filming him naked? Or is it just like, listen, this is common area? Did that ever come up?
It never came up. I ended up not. So our flow is, all right, look at the cameras, which was great. Like, that's awesome. I got to see all that. That's fantastic.
That's great. Yeah. You're very happy.
So DM me for that. And so I got to review all this footage, and beyond the naked thing, there was the food theft thing. So that was the route that we went. I didn't want to address the naked thing. If we had to in court or whatever, we could do it. But just to make things simple, I was like, hey, we have proof of you stealing stuff.
Right.
And so the flow is email them with all the proof that you can gather, cameras being the best source of proof that you can have. But otherwise, there's been issues between residents where we'll get like screenshots of texts between residents, or there's any sort of evidence you can gather, but typically it's going to be like screenshots and camera footage is typically what it is for us. Then we emailed that guy and we're like, hey, here's the proof of all this. Please mutually agree to leave within X number of days. In this case, it was 7. We had to get him out before Cinco de Mayo. So,
yeah.
And so anyway, every time we've had to do that like 5 or 6 times now. Every single time the tenant has agreed to leave because we have such hard proof, because we tell them, hey, we're going to do an eviction if you don't agree. So, so that was a solution we had to come up with that was tech enabled by the cameras. I would never run a CoLiving property without them because they've been a godsend for getting people out when they don't need to be. And we really do want to keep a very strong, healthy community in these properties, or else, one bad egg gets in there and the whole thing can start to spoil.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So your biggest issue is just dealing with bad tenant and getting them out. And so you built your operational process around that. You get cameras up, and that's how you're able to implement an operational decision based on, having tech. So it all stems from having good processes to set the property up right, so that when you have interpersonal issues and other systems down the line, it's all dependent on your overarching process. Right.
Yep. You solve the process. You've solved the problem one time. And like I said, CoLiving's volume. So you just implement that solution over and over and over. Like we've used it 7, 8 times.
Yeah. That's one thing that we're working to try to educate people on is like the question, like, why do you recommend, certain features in the home, cameras for one, or spigots or lock spigots around the water faucet outside, or certain things. It's all to address operational challenges we know are there. They're going to come down the line, right? Why do you use electric locks? So you can change them. Why do you have key boxes next to electric locks? So when electric locks dies, you have the key box available. You can have your system and your process there to tie it in, right? So a lot of things, they all tie together to help you run your home most appropriately, right? All right, so your business model is a bit different. I run my homes today traditionally on pad split. We go in and our model is convert as much space as we can to two-bedroom space to maximize rents gathered into the property. If we have a room that could be a bedroom or a sitting room, we'll convert that to a bedroom and get profit out of there. With that, my theory and my business process is I'd rather maximize returns in a home so that I have free cash to quickly and without thinking about it, just address the issues. I'm not sitting there like, oh, I don't know. Let me double check, make sure I have enough money to fix the problem. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Just get it done, solve it, go forward. Your model is a little different. You like having more common space. If you had a choice between a living room and a bedroom, maybe you might convert it, maybe you might not, right? Depending on how you're at. So how do you make your decision around, hey, additional bedroom, more money in pocket, or leave common space for use? And then do you actually see utility of it? Because oftentimes that's one thing we've had. We don't always see it being used, even if provided.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack.
There were a lot of words out of my mouth there.
Yeah, just spewing. Yeah, so I'll hit on a handful of those, and if I miss some, we'll roll back. But yeah, I guess first thing I would say, kind of from the get-go, like I said, we developed in a vacuum, so we never even had this idea of not having a common space. Like even with our first property, we never even thought about building an extra bedroom. Like we bought it and we thought we'd live in it and rent out the other existing bedrooms. That's exactly what we did. And then, things evolved over time. The next property, we had a living room and like just down the hall, a like fireplace room, like a family room, second living room, sitting room, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever it is. A thing with the fireplace in it. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing with the fireplace in it. Yeah. And so that was the first opportunity where we were like, hey, maybe we can convert a space. So cool. We turned that fireplace room into a bedroom, and still kept the living room. Still had never even heard of like not having a living room. It wasn't until I guess Pad Split started getting bigger a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, somewhere around there, that we started hearing about guys like not having the living rooms. And yeah, so we just still had the personal rule, like in our portfolio, hey, we're not going to do it that way because we don't think it would be as good for the resident experience. And that's kind of just a rule that we've never touched. What I'm excited to see is really see the data shake out of this and see if you do get more rents or not, depending on the resident experience in the house. Because like you said, or I don't know if you said it on this call, but like you've said before, you don't think living rooms are used like very often. And that definitely is something that we saw by default for sure. So like because we lived in the first two houses with the residents, right? And yeah, the living rooms were rarely used until we were at that second property and we started throwing community events, like super duper simple, but people probably hear me talk about it, but literally just pizza night. That's the only thing that we've done. Super easy. We pay $40, get pizzas delivered, whether we live there or not. So if we don't live there, we just get it, delivered and tell the residents, hey, come down and eat pizza. You can meet your fellow housemates, yada, yada. So we found that once we did that, people actually did start hanging out more in the common spaces, being kitchen and living room, because they had that icebreaker. So, things are really, really awkward otherwise, right? Like you move in, tenants are creeping around the hallway, not talking to each other because they've never been introduced. So we found that was like an easy way to introduce people. And at this point, it is mostly theory because we haven't side by side compared both of them in one market. Because that's one thing. Like in Houston, where you are looking for more workforce housing, Pad Split's a bigger player there, and they're more in line with
setting the standard,
less common
right?
Space. Yeah. So that's totally standard there. Whereas here, if we threw a room or a house without a living room, it would definitely be the weird one on all the platforms at this point. But we'll talk about it later. But yeah, we're developing a software right now, and in there we will actually be able to track, oh, do you have a living room? Do you not? How do the rents shake out? But anyway, the theory is that, yeah, whenever we do have this living space and we get people to use it, now resident experience goes up, retention goes up, people stay longer. But it'll be fun to actually put it to the test.
Okay. So the one thing that you only do the one thing. Is it just the one time, or is it multiple times a month, or is it whenever you have a new tenant, then you'll do a pizza party? How often are you doing that?
Yeah. So the way that we do it is we don't, the first requirement is there has to be at least 3 people at the house or more. So whenever we set a property up, once we get the third tenant is usually when that event triggers, because we have it automated. But so that's the first thing. But once we do have 3 people, then yeah, we do it every 3 months. We have thrown around the idea of, hey, every time a new resident comes in, let's do it. But, you know, sometimes you get someone come in this week, someone come in next week, someone come in the next week. And I think the other residents would just get tired of it. So we just truncate it and every 3 months.
Get sick of pizza, right?
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So let's talk a little bit more about, you know, again, your model. You work a lot towards automation because you have that history. You're the engineer. You understand a bit more. Me, I tend to work and develop my systems around people and designing the house appropriately. Like I focus on what is the right furniture, the right bed, and then build everything around that with the efficiency play. Well, you work more around software and automations to reduce, you know, your need. You have a VA, but to reduce the need for the VA, right? And to really let you sit back and let it run, and you're just tweaking your system instead of tweaking the tenant, essentially, right? So let's talk a little bit about what have you built out. What is some really cool tech that you have? Keep anything you want to keep your secret sauce, I guess, out. But let's talk about what you have and what you're bringing to market.
Yeah. So all of this stems from there's different ways to run any business, and a lot of it depends on your skill set, right? So in my case, yeah, coming from the engineering type background, the main thing I was doing was writing code and all my internships and W-2 and all that kind of stuff. So whenever I was working the W-2 and doing co-living, you know, purchasing co-living properties at the same time, and we didn't have any employees or VAs or anything, it became like pretty apparent pretty quickly. Like by the time we had our second, third property, you're at, you know, 14, 20 plus tenants. Like I said, volume takes time. So I found myself having a lack of time. So I was like, okay, let me actually put my skills for my job at use here and start automating things so that I still have time to do both of these, to do the W-2 and do the real estate. So we started to automate things internally, you know, just within our business, like replying to people on Zillow, replying to people on, you know, Roomies, replying to people on apartments.com. I think that was the first thing that we automated. But from there, which has a lot of benefits, one, you reply way quicker, and then two, it takes less time out of your day. So that was really the biggest levered automation you can do. I think
a lot of times people are just like, oh, is this available or whatever, and then just crickets. So if you're trying to be always on, it would probably drive you nuts, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just the quicker you get back to them, the more likely they are to convert, which, by the way, an interesting test. I made an account on Roomies just to see how quickly other people reach out to me. And you'd be surprised. There were like 3 or 4 or 5 accounts that reached out within like 3 minutes. So the space is getting more professional, right? Like in short-term rentals, you could use your cell phone, you know, and now you have to get super professional pictures. Similar thing is happening on the co-living side, where maybe even with pictures, but definitely with communication. If you reply 2 months or, you know, 2 hours later, there's already been 3, 4,
they've already
5,
forgotten. They've already moved on.
Yeah. So this is getting a lot more professional. You need to think about it a lot more. But anyway, then we kept automating things like doing like resident-led tours. We automated that to where someone could automatically book and someone in the house would automatically pick it up. And, you know, that works. Automated like referrals so that people in the house could send a friend over and then automatically they get $200 off next month's rent. So there was a lot of things that we automated internally. One of the biggest ones, whenever we started seeing, as we started to scale and have more issues filling up the rooms, as we just had more and more and more and more that we were bringing online, one of them was dynamic pricing. And this was kind of a big unlock that people are using in other strategies and short-term and midterm right there. They're not just saying, hey, whenever I underwrote this, you know, 6 months ago and bought this property, I thought it would rent for $700 a month. I'm going to stick to that, right? Like people in the short-term space don't do that. They adjust their rents over time, depending on what's happening in their market with demand and supply and all that. So, you know, they might start at what they underwrote at, but then sometimes it might be higher, sometimes it might be lower, depending on time of year, events in town, those kinds of things. So we started thinking about that on the room rental side, and adjusting based on various things like co-living is seasonal, not as volatile as short-term rentals, but it's still seasonal. So we started adjusting internally based on that, adjusting our price. We started adjusting on the vacancy that's in the house. So like, let's say we set up a new 10-bedroom house and 10 bedrooms are vacant. All right, well, I'm not going to list them all at $750 like I thought I was going to, because it's going to take longer to get them all filled up. I'm going to list them at like $500, get 2 of them filled up. All right, step it up. Now we're at $600, get a couple filled up. And there's like math that goes behind that. But anyway, there's a lot of adjustments there. So we built all this internally. And we have recently started building this for other people as well. So it's a software called CoLiving Pro. If you guys go to colivingpro.io, you can sign up there. But anyway, we have beta testers using it right now. It's been super successful thus far. But the main thing we're doing is the dynamic pricing for rooms, and then also listing syndication. So like we just got the capability to send listings that are in our platform to Zillow, and the rents will automatically be adjusted over there. We're talking with other platforms too, Roomies and Apartments.com and all these. So the idea is that when we launch at the end of the year here, your rents will automatically be adjusted and we'll send it everywhere that you probably want it to go.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. It's great to see that you're taking your old life and applying it to your better, newer, shinier life.
Yeah.
You got a little something out of your 4 years there.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so I guess when you're thinking about this, you got your AI, not your AI, your automation there. Beyond that, do you have any other operational strengths that you think really set you apart within your properties and in your business at all?
Yeah, automation's always been the key thing that we have that most people don't have. But beyond that, I guess. I
mean, do you think having lived in the home, having launched it that way, was that a great strength of yours? Because I'll get in the argument with people a lot around. People are like, they want to do things like have couches, or they want to do some other more communities. I'm like, that's great if it's your one house, if you're treating it like a boutique, but you want to scale. So you want to scale while still having some things that I tie towards more of a boutique operation, I believe. Do you think that you'll be able to continue doing so, or do you think you're going to have to, trim, standardize, get even tighter on operations over time, or you think you'll still be able to have like your pizza nights and some other of the other aspects that you have coming into play?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I mean, I've always approached every problem from a scalable operation standpoint. So not how do we fix this, but how do we fix this and continue to have this solution in place as we continue to scale. So like, for example, living in the properties was a huge benefit, actually, especially when we were developing in a vacuum and no one else knew what the heck they were doing. And like, we had to like invent everything. So like, for example, like with a cleaner, we're living in the property. We noticed that the living room's getting a little dirty. Okay, I'll pick it up. Then, a tenant eventually texts, hey, the living room's getting kind of dirty. Like, what do we want to do about it? Okay, so then it's like, all right, let's hire a cleaner, because I know when we leave in 5 months, this is going to be totally different, right? I'm not here anymore. So we hire the cleaner, then we're able to ask the residents, like in the hallway, hey, has it been better? Yada, yada. Oh yeah, it's been good or not. And in fact, it was not good after the first cleaner. So we hired the next cleaner, right? So it was a good opportunity to invent solutions and also test out vendors, handymen, cleaners, all that when we lived there. But yeah, pretty much everything we do does have that scalability in mind. So the pizza parties, for example, done totally remotely. We order on Papa John's and email or text the residents or whatever. We don't ever have to show up. Another one that we're implementing now, again, totally scalable, is an improvement on our referral system. So right now what happens is every resident once a month gets an email. Hey, don't forget, refer us, bring someone to this house or any of our houses and we'll give you $200 off. Well, that's great. And we have gotten folks that way. But just to further squeeze out even more leads in a scalable, systematic type of way, something that we're implementing right now is going to be pretty cool. So whenever somebody moves in, and this is all stuff that we're going to add to CoLiving Pro eventually. We're just testing it in our own portfolio right now. But whenever someone moves in, they will get a package in the mail with a bunch of flyers with their own QR code on it. And again, this has scalability in mind. It just goes via USPS, right? Like I don't have to be there to drop off these packages, and it's super seamless if we just pay a little extra or whatever and get it shipped. It's just
you just have your VA contact some local printing office and they print and mail and they take care of it all. Like the UPS,
totally.
They do it all. They have it all there. They'll print it, they'll pack it, and they'll ship it for you just with a phone call and an email, right?
So we even like with our property setup, we order all of our rules that we hang around the house. We order them from Office Depot, they laminate it and they deliver it to the house, and then our handyman gets it and sets it up, right? It will be a similar flow, and there's a QR code on there individual to them. So this removes the friction of, oh, let me tell this person to apply and then tell them what my name is so I can get the discount, all that. Instead, no, they just post this flyer at their work. They post it at, wherever the heck they go with a bulletin board, school, whatever it is, their unique code on there. Someone scans it, boom, they get $200 off. Like if that person moves in. So again, just another scalable solution that I think will work pretty well.
Fantastic. Okay. Today with your operations in your business, is everything that you do, all the properties you take care of, they're all yours? Are you operating for anybody else? I think you have partnerships. How does that work? And do you have any expectations to grow beyond properties that you own yourself? Or are you kind of sticking with, all right, we're going to develop for our systems, our process, and we'll offer, like you're doing, tools for others? Is that how you're looking to go?
Yeah, so we own the first couple of properties we bought were just ours. They were 5% down house hacks in mine and my wife's name. Beyond that, we couldn't afford 25% down maybe once every 2 years or something, probably, honestly. Right. So we started leveraging partnerships. So that's how we bought the other 5 or 6 properties. Have been someone with cash, we connect with them, and we kind of sell ourselves as like kind of like a one-stop shop. So it's they could go purchase their own co-living property, and if we were set up this way, which we're not, but if we did want to offer third-party management, cool, they could hire us. Okay, but there's still a lot of other things that go on with co-living. So we're definitely more of a one-stop shop sort of approach. So we don't manage for anyone else. We only take on partners. So typically what that looks like is, somebody brings capital, and then we, like on my side, find the deal, analyze the deal. So these are things that they would normally do on their own. Find the deal, analyze the deal, attend inspections, appraisals, all that, right? Figure out the floor plan. In fact, I've paid Dave for floor plans in the past. So if you guys are looking at floor plans like, man, where the heck do I add this room and do all that? Dave is the floor plan master. Literally part of our SOP.
You've been at this for a while. Why would you want to rely on me to look at it?
Because, dude, Dave finds the most creative things. He's like, oh, if you demoed this closet, you now have a new hallway over here to get to this room in this back corner. And I'm like, oh my God, I never even thought about removing, this like closet or whatever, just to make a new entryway. So like it's worth paying whatever it was, like $200 or $100 or something, to make us, thousands of extra dollars in cash flow. So anyway, but we're figuring out the floor plan.
I'll pay you for that referral later.
Yeah. So then I'm managing contractors, and then my side is managing the tenants too. But it's all a partnership type model where we split cash flow 50-50. We'd have 3 properties right now, probably, if we hadn't been willing to expand into partnerships. So instead
where are you at now?
7.
There's 7 now. So 4 of your properties you did with partnerships. Okay.
2 personally, okay. And then 5 with partnerships. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Okay. Next question, and the last one we're going to have before we're going to start fighting each other. So get ready for that. What do you see as the future of co-living, right? You're working through it. We all have some different perspectives. You're in a state that is very beneficial or very, very positive towards co-living. They've passed laws around that. Do you think that continues to expand? Do you think, I think the presidency is starting to talk about affordability. I think people are starting to recognize it's a real issue here. Do you think that maybe co-living might fall by the wayside if the government really gets involved? But then you also hear them saying they want to get people off of Section 8. So how do you think things are going to play?
Yeah, so as far as the government stepping in and creating some solution that works, I don't have high hopes for that one. What I've always said is if the government just enabled co-living to be legal everywhere and ADUs to be legal everywhere, both of those 2 things, the government would have to put $0 into the solutions. Just let investors do what they do, and open up the availability. Let them be allowed to do this. It's not restricted, and I think everything would be solved. But otherwise, as far as the future of co-living, I do think, like I said, it's becoming more and more professional. You're going to have to be better at the operations and the acquisitions and every piece of it if you want to be like a top performer. So I would say that's one thing. 2, regulation-wise, right, there are lots of cities and states that don't look favorably upon co-living right now because of laws that they wrote 100+ years ago. I do expect that to start changing. So we've seen Washington kind of be at the forefront of that over the last 4 or 5 years. And they have since made a regulation that says all cities must allow co-living, essentially, by the end of 2025. And that is something, just like they were the first ones to say, hey, cities can no longer regulate how many unrelated people can live together. They did that, and then other states adopted it. Oregon, Colorado, I think Arkansas at this point, and then certain cities have liked it as well.
Arkansas was the most surprising one for me. I was like,
out of left field, dude. Super
Right.
cool.
Oh,
So my prediction is that these things that Washington are doing might start to sprinkle across the country again with their more favorable co-living regulations. So personally, we only buy where it's totally allowed. And I think, that's going to be more and more the norm as we go on here. It'll be allowed in more and more states. Now, the thing with that is maybe current operators might have to adjust some things. Like if you have been buying, for example, like in Houston, where it's been like kind of the Wild West and all that.
yeah.
Once regulations do start to come into place, it's going to be more formal. You're going to have to play by the rules a little bit more. So that that's something that could take place like in Houston, but then there's areas where it's totally not allowed, where these regulations coming in are totally 100% a good thing. Like, oh, you couldn't even do it before.
Right.
Now you can. So there might be some changing of playing by the rules in various places, but I think it will be more allowed.
I think it's just going to continue expanding. It's just going to keep happening, and new players are going to need to be better.
Yeah.
Than the original guys, right? Like with Airbnb, when it launched, you could literally have an air mattress on the ground. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Right. And now you need to have a tree house with like 4 water parks and fireworks that go off on the hour in order to get a tenant. Yeah. Right.
Well, and that's the great thing, right? You guys hear about Airbnb bust and all of that. I bet you the people who were buying and running their Airbnbs in 2015, I bet you they're doing just fine right now, not because they bought it so long ago, but because they already have the systems. They already learned the lessons. They're already the best. So same with anyone listening to this. You're still on the first train, right? Basically, if you're listening to this, right? So you guys will be the ones who, whenever we do eventually hit oversupply in certain markets, which is 100% going to happen. Like there's a strong demand for this, but eventually investors are going to put too much supply in certain markets for sure. You're going to be the ones who are still killing it because you figured out how to do it, way long ago, and you already have everything hammered out. So anyway, good.
You're already on your 4th or your 5th evolution.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so now is the segment where I'm still working on a name for it. It could be called Fight, Fight, Fight. Could be called Fight Club. Could be called Let's Not Get Along for a little bit. I'm not sure. But every business in co-living, you'll have certain baseline, right? We're all dealing with a property cut up by bedrooms, not by time. Because today, if you're trying to maximize your value, you're either cutting it up by space or by time. By time is Airbnb. By space is co-living. But within that basic definition of co-living, there's a lot of variances. And those variances beyond just take house, cut up room is what set us apart, right? So I think 2 of the biggest differences that are there in the way that you and I operate, one is a lot of your rooms, I think you're starting to maybe do some furnishing, but you've traditionally been unfurnished bedrooms, furnished common space, right? To a degree within there. And the other difference would be, we talked about this earlier, I'm blanking on it.
Yeah, there was another one. It'll come to us. We can start with the bedroom.
We'll talk about the other one when we remember. But let's talk about common space. Not common space, furnishing of your property, and how you don't furnish bedrooms, but you do furnish your common areas, right? So
Yes.
What was your decision point around, what are some benefits that you see in not furnishing your bedrooms? Like, what's your thesis there?
Yeah. So I guess first off, just on the common spaces real quick. So I think pretty much everyone does furnish common spaces in co-living. And that was just, so like, for example, we lived in in college, I rented some rooms with some other guys and, super informal sort of situation, but it really sucked in the summer when they went home from school and took the couch and the TV. Right.
Wow.
And now I'm left in this property without it. Right. So again, applying that to scale, that would become super duper annoying. If every time someone left, they took their couch, now the whole house is mad. So yeah, we definitely furnish common space, living room, kitchen, those kinds of things. But yeah, as far as the bedrooms go, kind of our thesis there going into this, again, no one was doing this. We didn't know what the heck we were doing. But in the very beginning, 3 years ago, I went on to Roomies. We were probably already under contract at this point on our first place, but we hadn't purchased it yet. But I went to roomies.com and looked at kind of a unique thing about that platform. You can filter, there's great filters on there because it's a room-only platform. So you can go in there and filter to furnished, unfurnished, private bath, non-private bath, allows pets, doesn't allow pets. You can do all that. You can even filter down to look at roommate profiles. So you can look at the people that are looking in this market. You can see how many people have accounts there. You can see how many rooms are in this market. So like there's a lot of good data there. But one of the things that I did, I could still find the spreadsheet and literally post it at the end of this if you guys wanted, but found a spreadsheet or looked up the rents for furnished and unfurnished rooms and compared those two. And the crazy thing was they were almost dead on exact the same. Private with a shared bath, private with or private furnished, private unfurnished, shared furnished, shared unfurnished. It didn't really matter the furnishing variation. It was within like 1%. So we didn't see a big price difference. So my only other thought there was, well, we'd have to spend money on bedroom furnishing. So let's just go with unfurnished if it's going to produce the same amount of rent. And that's what we did. That's where we started. Since then, our thinking has evolved, and I can go into the pros and cons of both approaches. But really, it does just like kind of depend on your market. So what we found in our market is whenever someone's interested in coming to stay with us, they fill out this form, and on there we ask, do you want your room furnished or unfurnished? We're not going to cater to your needs. It says this in a nice way. We're not going to cater to your needs. Really, we just want the data. I forget exactly how we say this. But anyway, they answer this form. And it's pretty close in our market. We're like 52 or 55% right now of people want unfurnished. And then 45% or so want furnished. So that has led us to mostly stick with unfurnished. But for example, whenever I was looking at Houston, where Dave is, I ran the same thing. I was collecting data from folks, and it was something like 70-30, 70 furnished, 30 unfurnished, right? So I think it does depend a lot on the market. In our market, we have a lot of military guys. Those guys are like pretty stable. The military ships their furniture from their last place for them. So a lot of them have beds, dressers, all of that they're going to bring to the property that we have. Whereas if you are somewhere where maybe people are staying for shorter terms, they're not going to bring their furniture with them, right? Furnishing tends to make more sense for that sort of person. But we have started to furnish some. We have 3 or 4 furnished rooms at this point out of our 50, just to attack that 45% of the population that we're not catering super well to right now, the people who do want furnished. So it just allows us to fill more rooms more quickly since we haven't tapped into that piece yet. But same thing would be true in Houston, for example. If I was in Houston, I would furnish 70% of my rooms and I would unfurnish 30% of them just to take best advantage. You do have to think about which platforms you're listed on though. Like if you're on Airbnb, Furnish Finder, Pad Split, all of those require that you have furnished rooms. And then if you're going to be unfurnished, you can add to that Zillow, Roomies, all these other ones. So anyway, that's a high level comparison. Of course, I have more thoughts.
Awesome. So you base yours purely data driven or on the furnished or unfurnished. You decide, hey, there's no real price difference. I'm not going to make any more or less money if I go first, but I'm not responsible for furnishings now. I don't have the added cost for furnishings coming to play within it, right?
Exactly. I would stray towards unfurnished if unsure because it's so much cheaper to do. But really, when you have the data, let the data guide you.
Okay. My thesis, and we'll keep going backwards to get more thought as well, around furnished rooms is, I'm using Pad Split for the most part, and they require it, right? We also have done Airbnbs, require furnishings, just expectation for the bedrooms. In our common areas, we furnish. We got stools and stuff in the kitchen because I like to have islands. I do metal stools in there versus generally I don't do a dining table. It takes up space, and I just like the design of an eat at kitchen island, right? But in the bedrooms, my big thesis around this is I'd rather not have people moving furniture around. I don't want people breaking, scratching the walls. If they move in different times of day, I don't want them being disruptive to other tenants, moving the stuff in and out. And also, if I want to get rid of somebody, it's a lot easier to get rid of somebody quicker if they don't also need to schedule the moving truck or come up with the cash to do the move and everything, right? I get to see someone needing their buddies over in order to move in. We try to keep outside access minimized. Right? We don't want your buddy coming over and helping you move. We want you moving in yourself, ideally. Now, some people, they've made requests and we've allowed it, especially if you're a little bit elderly or something, you need some help. We've certainly allowed it, but it's not something I want to have as a standard practice, which you might have to have an allowance for that if they need to bring furniture in. I also see bringing in furniture as a risk in the pest control department, right? Someone brings in that wooden dresser, maybe they found it on the side of the road, or they bring their own bed and the mattress already has bed bugs. And now they're introducing exterior hazards to it. So like just on my end with trying to operate at what I determine as scale, having standards around furniture. We've got our furniture buy lists. Visit it at colivingoperations.com. Recommended furniture. We've tested over the last several years around what works, what's fast to set up. I think you tested some of my furniture.
Yeah, can I give a testimonial? So like I said, we just, like, seriously, this was so helpful. But we just started furnishing, some of them. Like I said, we've done 3 or 4 of them, I think 4. And I literally used Dave's furnishing list for it. And I went over there afterwards and asked my handyman, because I was shooting the pictures for the room and everything. I asked him, hey, how was the ease of setup? We're going to do more of these, so I want to know how quickly you can set this up, how much extra time it adds, whatever. And he was like, oh, dude, like in particular, the bed frame that Dave has on there, it like just pops open basically and like snaps into place, and like you're done. Like, no, you're not putting all the cross members and doing all of that. So anyway, it was a huge time savings. Dave really has worked on that list for like 3 or 4 years, and it's kind of badass. So
thank you. We now have, so we've got beds that unfold real fast and easy, and I've got over 200 of them in service, and not one is broken. The only broken beds I've ever had to deal with were the ones that my clients had installed, which had like wooden frames or whatever, and it's a huge hassle. We've got desks that come together. I think you use the desk too, right? Yep. Unfolds and the top fits in place. That's done in like 30 seconds. The biggest part of all that is just getting it out of the box is the most annoying part, right? Now I've got a dresser recommendation. It's not a real dresser, but it is an unfolding shelving unit. Comes out of the box, it unfolds, you hit a latch, and it's locked into place. And then those fabric boxes, storage boxes that you get, and they're perfectly sized, 13 by 13 by 13, that fit on this 26-inch wide shelf. That's 13 inches tall, 13 and a half inches tall. So it's perfect. It looks gorgeous. And that gets set up again. Now you can get all your basic furnishings set up in a room now. And if you really try to speed through it, probably 10 minutes. Here's the thing, right?
Pretty sweet.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, sorry. But that's all furniture. That comes into play here. But again, recommended furnishings, tested with rigor, so we know what it is. We're not dealing with it. And I mean, I've seen some other guys that are doing unfurnished rooms, and their people are sleeping on the ground or on bad air mattresses or whatever. And it's just that experience isn't something I want to propagate or be aware of or be a part of. Like, I don't want someone like giving me everything and then leaving it on the ground.
So
right?
So let me touch on that. So we have our handyman go over every 3 months and do these quarterly walkthroughs, and part of that is he records the entirety of the exterior and the interior, including inside all the bedrooms, so we can review it remotely. Again, like a scalable thing that we can repeat. Anyway, so we have seen that. I don't know, probably like 5. If we have 50 rooms, probably like three of them that we look at every quarter. We will see, somebody's sleeping on the ground in their room with a pallet or an air mattress or something like that. In our market, at least, kind of the crazy thing is those same guys have like $3,000 gaming PCs in their room also. So I think it's a little bit of a personal choice sometimes. But sometimes they might be forced into, all right, I need to rent a room. The only thing available is unfurnished. I'm just going to do that and sleep on the ground. So that is where, guaranteed, those people who were sleeping on the ground, they're probably part of that 45% of the market that we aren't 100% exactly catering to, because we don't offer the furnished option historically. So that is the purpose of introducing some furnished rooms. People who would be sleeping on the floor, now of course they're going to pick our room over the other unfurnished guy, right? Because we're exactly catering to their needs.
Have you gone back to those people when identified and offered furnishings? Be like, hey, listen, we saw what was going on during our quarterly inspection. We'd be happy to furnish just so you stay here longer and are happier.
I think it's a good idea. This will be the first. Our handyman's literally at our properties like today doing this, and this will be the first one since we started offering the furnished option. One thing that we did do, though, to furnish one of the rooms, we got kind of creative. There was a guy who wanted to move in, and he just mentioned in passing that he was gonna get new furniture delivered to the house. Bed frame, desk, all that. And so I told him, I was like, hey, we're actually thinking about furnishing some rooms. If I buy all the furnishings and have them set up, like, do you want to pay for half of it? And then you can leave it. You don't have to worry about it, because he was there for like a 2 or 3 month assignment. I was like, if not, seriously, no worries. But we're thinking about doing it, so we can do it for this room, and you can pay half of it, and then you'll be set up. You pay less, we pay less. And he agreed to it. So we have furnished a room for like half off by doing that. So
okay, that's cool. Yeah. Did you use my furniture set for that, or did that happen before? You saw my furniture.
That was mostly your stuff. There were certain things that we had to order that had to get there like next day or 2 day or whatever, because he was about to move in. But it was mostly your stuff. Yeah,
That's cool. All right. Okay, so all right, that wasn't much of a fight. I was hoping that we'd have real.
Well, okay. Well, here you go. I'll give more of the pros on.
Yeah, let's fight.
Because I was basically just agreeing with you on. There are times to do furnishings, and there are certain ways to do it, and Dave is definitely good at that. So on the unfurnished side, benefits that we have seen. Number one, whenever someone does bring their own furniture, as like the opposite side of what Dave was saying, it is harder for them to move out. So if you get good people in that you don't want to leave, it's more likely that they're going to stay because they had to get their buddies to help them bring furniture.
Might maintain higher occupancy because it's such a pain to move. So it's just more friction for the move out process.
Totally, yeah. And so this is especially the way that we run the strategy, right? We are people are interacting more in the house than in Dave's. So we probably do have at least the same amount of tenant conflict for sure, and like potentially more because people are talking more. And we found ways to like solve it and all that. But so that does mean though that the first time there's like a minor inconvenience, someone may want to leave the property. And now there is like less opportunity for them to do that. Like we've had people message us, hey, how can I move out early? And that's kind of all they say. And I'm like, okay, well, what's going wrong? All right. And then they tell us whatever the tenant issue is, and like we're able to solve it in a day or 2 days or whatever. But if their room was furnished, they might not even send that email to us saying, hey, how do I move out early? Yada, yada. They might just freaking leave and they're already gone. Right. Because there is more friction involved with moving all the furniture. So it does give us a little bit more breathing room to solve issues without somebody getting up and leaving super duper 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 quickly. So anyway, that's one pro. More difficult for them to move out. They do stay longer. But yeah, cons would be, you ding up the walls a little bit more. So honestly, we haven't really had any issues with that. Like there's a couple of basements where you have to cut, some weird corners to get down into the basement. But really, whenever you're doing your remodel, it is something that we do think about on the unfurnished side. Someone's gonna have to bring their bed frame through this hallway and into this room. Can they make this corner? So it does add, you do have to think about that in the remodel.
Yeah, a little bit. You gotta give a little bit of thought process to your design there. Have you ever had someone show up with like that 1920s 500-pound dresser, or is everyone just using the lighter, cheaper furniture from Amazon these days?
Yeah, depends on the demographic. If it is someone who like just flew in for a new job or whatever, a lot of the time, they'll get their stuff delivered from Amazon same day, and it will be the lighter fabric, whatever. The military guys, I mean, dude, they'll get the military to ship grills, and they'll ship. They bring so much stuff. So they have heavier things for sure.
So Miller, thanks so very much for joining us here. Any other last comments? Any other thoughts you want to put out there before we call it a day?
No, I mean just everything that you guys know. Co-living is an awesome solution to unaffordability and also bringing a lot of cash flow. Now is a great time to do it in a lot of markets. But definitely, I would say you guys do need to be learning from someone, me, Dave, whoever the heck it is, to get that 2, 3, 4 year experience jump. Because you do want to make sure that you're doing this right in the right places where it is going to be long lasting. You don't want to treat this like a fad and throw a property up and it doesn't work in a year because something changed, right? So you definitely do want to lean on experience of others for sure.
So your book that's there, whereabouts can people buy that these days?
Yep. Best place to get the book is colivingbook.com. That'll redirect you over to Bigger Pockets with 25% off. So the ebook's like $5 or whatever. It's like insanely cheap. And otherwise, if you guys just want to check me out on Instagram or Facebook at Miller McSwain, we post all sorts of co-living content 2, 3, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times a week. And that'd be a good place to connect. And we will reply to all DMs and everything like that.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you again, Miller, for joining me here. And we'll talk again soon. Thanks.
All right. See you, Dave.